Want to make movies? Hey there, aspiring filmmakers. You're the new Hollywood generation. My name is Orlando Delbert. This is Hollywood Unapologetic. I first wrote about success in filmmaking and life when I was writing Pollyanna's tear-soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical. Today I wanted to speak about Filmmaking Essentials, reopening Hollywood, entertainment production insurance, and the new Hollywood generation. For you, the new Hollywood generation, this directly applies to you. If you haven't watched the episode, Filmmaking Essentials, Reopening Hollywood, New Hollywood Generation, I'll have a link at the end of this episode for you to check out. While I was writing the episode I just mentioned, I decided it would be best to produce 2 episodes on reopening Hollywood, entertainment production insurance, and completion bonds and guarantees. I mentioned completion bonds near the end, but we'll dedicate a whole episode just to that coming up. Yes, I know these are not the most exciting topics for many of you, but for something you really should know about and have secured before shooting a single frame. If you plan on producing your own project, most of the responsibility, if something goes wrong, lands right in your lap. And with that, you and your production are at financial and legal risk and even criminal consequences to you personally. But here's the thing. While a good entertainment production policy protects the production, your crew, your gear, and the locations you want to shoot at from liability claims, it is also one of the biggest hurdles to overcome during these coronavirus pandemic days after the safety-related ones. While the unions, film commissions, and other industry stakeholders are working on how to establish a safety protocol for the studios to use, production insurance is a huge part of that conversation. This is especially true because it looks like when insurance companies do begin to cover productions again, they most likely will charge double than before all of this began and still won't cover against someone contracting COVID-19. Gets tricky because injuries, damage, and theft occur during production, and a good policy is designed to cover these things. But with all of the many additional moving parts involved thanks to the pandemic, all with enormous health and financial considerations, there's a lot more risk. I should also mention that after the SARS epidemic a few years ago, some insurance companies stopped covering pandemics altogether. Now keep in mind, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has warned us of a second coronavirus wave is expected. This is relative because as productions get closer to starting up, these same productions may likely be an identified risk, and insurers will not cover them. Add to that, when forced production shutdowns were initially implemented, multi-million-dollar claims hit their insurance carriers. As I spoke with some producers about this, many felt the studios should be ready and willing to cover the financial weight if productions began again and then are forced to shut down in the event crew members and on-camera talent contract COVID-19. For the moment, the studios simply won't risk having productions shot on their lots by any uninsured producers. No insurance company is going to insure a production against someone potentially contracting COVID-19 either. The risk is way too high. There is one exception to coverage, well, kind of. If you had an insurance policy on your production that was written prior to the virus outbreak, and then production was interrupted by the quarantine order, it may be honored through the completion of the project. Maybe. That is, if the production downtime stayed within the coverage limit. We're talking about just a couple $1 million, and depending on the size of your production, that could cover just a couple of days of your daily production costs. Some television productions were fortunate enough to have their costs covered by the networks and studios involved. Those same costs were covered through insurance claims now in progress, but for shows that were shooting on their stages and lots and considered independent productions, many were not that fortunate. Producers are hoping to work out ways for their distributors to help lessen some of their costs. At the moment, early in the legislative stage is a proposal to create into law a federally backed coronavirus or any other pandemic risk insurance product. In short, insurance would have to make coverage available to their policyholders when underwriting a line of business. A similar product was created after 9/11 attacks to cover terrorist acts called the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act. But here's the rub. Chances of contracting coronavirus are much greater than the chances of encountering a terrorism event. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners, along with 7 Republican senators, has voiced their doubts to provide the appropriate coverage at an appropriate price in a letter to President Trump. Before I go, I want to say that every production is different and has its own set of needs. The same can be said about the insurance industry and how it works. But with every production hit by the shutdown at the same time, the insurance industry was not designed for it. it's not the model that industry follows. The same can be said about completion bonds. For those who don't know, a completion bond is a guarantee your motion picture will be completed and delivered to the distributor by an agreed upon date. In the event completion is impossible, the guarantor can either loan the production the funds to finish the film or take it over and finish it. The other option is the production is abandoned altogether. When that happens, the production financing, interest, fees, and other costs are to be reimbursed. I plan to get more into completion bonds and guarantees for motion pictures in an upcoming episode. Bottom line, anyone working as part of any film crew has to accept it is a very tightly run unit. And as I mentioned in the last episode, we, as members of the new Hollywood generation, are all in it together. We're all in close proximity of one another. And under normal circumstances, sometimes our lives are at risk while on the clock. Today, the risk is higher, and this way of working and living may be with us for months and even years to come. Be safe, be smart, take it all one day at a time, and don't forget to be great. I'm going to add a link at the very end of the episode, Filmmaking Essentials, Reopening Hollywood, New Hollywood Generation. If you haven't checked it out, I think you'll dig it. Are you ready for the challenge?